How does an essay on discrimination from the 19th century relate to a fictional novel such as The Hunger Games? Well, they both use the rhetorical elements, imagery, and diction. Before we get to how the two relate to each other, let's first define imagery and diction. Imagery is the use of figurative language to form mental pictures and represent objects, ideas, and actions. When applied to the Hunger Games, Collins uses imagery to express the events in the arena as well as the effect that nature has on Katniss. Sojourner Truth uses imagery to get her point across about the discrimination that she faces while at the train station. Diction is the choice and use of words and phrases in speeches or writing. When applied to the Hunger Games, diction is especially important when choosing adjectives to describe the scenes in the arena and each district. Sojourner Truth uses diction to tell the story of when she was racially attacked. In both Sojourner Truth's An Account of Experience with Discrimination and Susan Collins' Hunger Games, rhetorical elements such as diction imagery are used to elucidate the horrors of 19th century discrimination and the immersive setting of the Hunger Games. My hip bones and ribs are more prominent than I remember them being since those awful moments after my father's death. And there are my wounds to contend with, burns, cuts, and bruises from smashing into trees and tracker-jacker stings. This quote from the Hunger Games portrays Katniss after she has defeated her enemies for the first time. It portrays her as she deals with her past and with her current wounds that have been inflicted on her. A cloak of leaves, a moonbeam ray, forget your woes and let your troubles lay. When it is morning again, they'll wash away. Here it is safe, here it is warm. This was a song that Katniss sang to her friend after she has died in battle. This portrays the scene of life after death. And then I see her, the blood drained from her face, hands clenched in fists at her side, walking with stiff, small steps towards the stage, passing me, and I see the back of her blouse has become untucked and hangs out over her skirt. This quote uses imagery to portray that Primrose is an innocent child who is not quite matured enough to fight in the Hunger Games. This serves as reasoning for Katniss to volunteer as tribute for the Hunger Games. Night creatures emerge, an owl hoots. The faint scent of a skunk cuts through the smoke. The eyes of some animal peer at me from the neighboring tree. A possum may be catching the firelight from the career's torches. This quote depicts the unfamiliar territory that the arena has become during nightfall. They dragged me a number of yards before she succeeded in stopping them. Sojourner Truth's words show that she was abused quite horribly and that her abusers did not care for her well-being and that racism was their prime motive. As I ascended the platform of the car, the conductor pushed me, saying, "Go back, get off here." This illustrates how the conductor personally told Sojourner to get off the train, as well as portraying the conductor as an evil and racist man. I told him I was not going off them. "Then I'll put you off," he said furiously, clenching my right arm with both hands, using such violence that he seemed about to succeed. Sojourner uses her experience with the conductor to portray that the conductor had no restraint on physical violence towards her, and that Sojourner was a strong and independent woman who would fight for her rights. My shoulder was very lame and swollen, but is better. Through Sojourner's writing, readers are able to build an image of the result of her abuse, and as well as the extent of the racism that she experienced at her time in the train station. Our part of District 12, nicknamed The Seam, is usually crawling with coal miners heading out to the morning shift at this hour. Words like crawling with coal miners describe District 12's rough working lifestyles, where everyone is forced to work in the coal mines daily. But today, the black cinder streets are empty. Shutters on the squat gray houses are closed. Words like black cinder streets and squat gray houses show that District 12 is not one of much wealth and that the people living there have few luxuries. Separating the meadow from the woods, in fact enclosing all of District 12, is a high chain-link fence topped with barbed wire loops. Susan uses the word enclosing to further the idea that District 12 is more like a prison and less like a city. Clenching my right arm with both hands using such violence, The use of the word clenching is especially important in this instance as it is a strong verb used to describe extreme acts of violence. My shoulder was very lame and swollen. The adverbial use of very to describe the pain inflicted upon her shoulder adds to the extremity of her injuries. Her shoulder was not lame, but very lame, which puts emphasis on her injuries. It is hard for the old slave-holding spirit to die. Sojourner Truth uses the word spirit to not only describe slavery as a lifestyle, but also as a part of one's life. It is as if racism was the only feeling that one could have towards African Americans during the 19th century. She belongs to humanity. Through this quote, Sojourner Truth uses diction to show that there is a rise in abolition and equal rights ideals, even though slavery and racism play a major role in American society during the 19th century. By implementing rhetorical elements into their work, Sojourner Truth and Susan Collins are able to catch the attention of the public and further the purpose of their writing. Sojourner Truth uses the devices to explore discrimination of the 19th century, and Susan Collins uses the devices to expand her novel's environment. By using imagery and diction, Susan's and Sojourner's works are able to withstand the test of time. How does an essay